3 days. That's all that stands between us and the most anticipated sporting event on the entire planet. If your heart isn't already racing, it will be by the end of this video, because what's about to happen is genuinely unlike anything football has ever seen before. Welcome back, and if you're new here, you picked an absolutely perfect time to find this channel, because for the next month, this is your home for everything FIFA World Cup 2026. We are 3 days away from the opening kick, and today we're breaking down every single thing you need to know before the whistle blows. The host nations, the favorites, the superstars to watch, the storylines that are going to define this tournament, and the burning questions that nobody can quite answer yet. So let's get into it, and trust me, you want to stay until the end, because the storyline I'm saving for last might be the most compelling thing heading into this World Cup. First, let's just take a second to appreciate where we are right now. This tournament is being hosted across 3 countries simultaneously. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are sharing hosting duties, which makes this the first World Cup ever staged across 3 nations. Think about that geographically. You could be watching a match in Vancouver one afternoon, and that same evening another game is kicking off thousands of miles away in Miami or Guadalajara. The sheer scale of this thing is almost hard to comprehend. The tournament is spread across 16 different host cities, with venues stretching from the cold northern reaches of Canada all the way down through Mexico. AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, the iconic Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, the Azteca in Mexico City, which has witnessed some of the most legendary moments in World Cup history. These are just a few of the stages where history is about to be made. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that changes everything about how this tournament is going to play out. FIFA made a decision that sent shockwaves through the football world when it was announced. They expanded the tournament from 32 teams all the way up to 48 teams. For decades, 32 was the number. 32 was the sacred limit, the benchmark, the structure every football fan on the planet grew up understanding. Now we have 48 nations competing, which means 16 additional countries got to send their players, their fans, and their dreams to this tournament who would never have qualified under the old format. Nations from Africa, Asia, CONCACAF, and South America, who previously couldn't quite break through the qualification barrier, are here. New stories are waiting to be written by countries appearing at their first World Cup or returning after long absences. And from a competitive standpoint, this means the group stage is completely restructured. Instead of 8 groups of 4, we now have 12 groups of 3 teams, with the top 2 from each group plus the 8 best third-place finishers advancing to a 32-team knockout round. It's a different beast entirely, and it creates some fascinating tactical dynamics we've never had to think about before. Now let's talk about who's actually going to win this thing, because that is the conversation consuming every football fan on the planet right now. And honestly, there are more compelling arguments flying around than at any World Cup in recent memory. Let's start with the defending champions, Argentina. Lionel Messi and his teammates did what many thought was impossible in Qatar in 2022, ending Argentina's 36-year wait for World Cup glory. And now the question everyone is asking is whether Messi, at this stage of his incredible career, has one more magical tournament run left in him. He has spoken publicly about how much this tournament means to him, and anyone who watched him in Qatar knows you simply cannot write him off. The way he performs on the biggest stages, the way he elevates the players around him, the way he seems to save his best moments for when the pressure is absolutely maximum, it's supernatural. Argentina have a genuinely strong squad beyond Messi too, with quality throughout the lineup and a manager who knows exactly how to set his team up for tournament football. They arrive as defending champions with a point to prove, and a captain who treats these tournaments like personal missions. Never underestimate them. Brazil. They haven't won a World Cup since 2002, which by their own astronomical standards feels like an eternity, and the hunger inside that squad is palpable. Brazil always come into tournaments with so much expectation that it can sometimes become a burden, but this generation has genuine quality across every position. Their attacking threat is real, their technical ability is world-class, and there is a growing belief that this could finally be the year they end that drought. The passion that comes from an entire nation expecting you to deliver is extraordinary pressure, but Brazilian players have always been raised to handle that weight. France. Let's be honest, France might be the most loaded squad in this entire tournament. The depth they have is genuinely frightening. When you look through their squad and realize that players who would walk into almost any other national team in the world are fighting just to make the bench, you understand why so many analysts are pointing to them as favorites. They have pace, physicality, technical quality, and proven big game experience. They reached the final in Russia in 2018 and won it, then went back and reached the final again in Qatar before losing on penalties. That kind of consistency at the very top of tournament football doesn't happen by accident. Spain have been building something special with their young generation of players, and the fluid, possession-based football they've been playing under their current setup is genuinely beautiful to watch. When Spain are clicking, they are one of the hardest teams in the world to play against because they suffocate you with the ball and create spaces through clever movement and quick combinations. They've won this tournament before, and they know how to win it again. England. Oh, England. The nation that has been waiting since 1966 for a World Cup, and the squad they are bringing to this tournament is arguably the most talented England generation in decades. There's genuine belief this time, not just the performative optimism that sometimes surrounds England at tournaments, but actual, substantive, grounded belief based on the quality of players available. Whether they can finally translate that quality into the ultimate prize is the question their fans have been asking for 60 years. Germany were in a rebuilding phase for a couple of years, but they've looked increasingly dangerous in the build-up to this tournament. Their engineering approach to football, their tactical discipline, their ability to produce world-class players generation after generation, these things don't just disappear. Germany at a World Cup always has to be taken seriously because they have this remarkable historical ability to peak at exactly the right moment. And then there's Portugal. With Cristiano Ronaldo, the conversation about legacy and final chapters follows every tournament, and it's no different here. Portugal have genuine quality beyond their iconic number 7, with a new generation of talented players who have been developing beautifully over the past few years. The question is always whether Portugal can function as a cohesive team unit rather than a collection of talented individuals. And if they solve that puzzle, they are absolutely capable of going deep in this tournament. Now let's talk about the players who are going to make you stop whatever you're doing and stare at a screen whenever they have the ball. Because beyond the established superstars, this World Cup is going to introduce some faces to the global audience that casual fans might not yet know. And that's always one of the most exciting things about these tournaments. Obviously, Messi and Ronaldo need no introduction, but the reality is that this World Cup belongs to the new generation rising up to claim their moment. Young players who have been tearing up club football over the past 2 seasons will now face the ultimate test of whether they can do it on the international stage, under World Cup pressure, with their entire nations watching. That transition from club excellence to international dominance is never guaranteed, and watching how these young talents handle their first or second World Cup experience is genuinely one of the most compelling subplots to follow across the entire tournament. Watch the midfielders. Midfield battles at this World Cup are going to be fascinating because so many of the elite nations are stacked with technically gifted, energetically complete midfielders who can control matches. The team that controls the center of the pitch in the knockout rounds is very likely to go deep, and the individual duels between world-class midfielders in those tight elimination games are going to be spectacular. Watch the goalkeepers. In a tournament where matches are decided on fine margins, elite goalkeeping can be the difference between going home and going all the way. Several of the favorites have world-class keepers who have been in outstanding form, and if the knockout rounds produce tight games, the saves made in those pressure moments could become the defining images of the tournament. Now the storylines. This is where things get genuinely fascinating, because every World Cup has its overarching narratives, and 2026 has several that are going to run through the entire tournament like threads. The legacy conversation is unavoidable. Both Messi and Ronaldo are at stages of their careers where questions about their final World Cup appearances hang over every match they play. Football fans around the world, even those who support rival nations and rival clubs, understand that they are watching the end of an era. These two players have defined global football for almost 2 decades, and the emotional weight of potentially watching either of them play their last World Cup match is something that transcends club loyalties and national rivalries. Whatever you think about either player, their final World Cup chapters are stories that football will be telling for generations. The pressure on the host nations is another storyline to follow closely. The United States have invested enormously in developing their football program, and playing a World Cup at home represents a potentially transformational moment for the sport in America. The crowds, the atmosphere, the mainstream media attention, the casual fans who might attend their first football match, all of this creates a unique environment that could either elevate the U.S. team or overwhelm them. Mexico, of course, have deep World Cup experience and passionate support everywhere they play. But performing in front of home crowds at the Azteca carries its own extraordinary weight. The new teams are going to be a storyline throughout the group stage. With 48 nations competing, there are countries at this World Cup making their debut or returning after long absences. These first-time experiences create moments of pure joy and emotion that remind you why football is the world's game. When a nation qualifies for their first World Cup, an entire country transforms. And when they take the field for that opening match, it's one of the most genuinely moving things in sport. The tactical evolution is something the analysts and coaches are going to be discussing constantly. With 12 groups of 3 instead of 8 groups of 4, the mathematics and the decision-making around qualification change significantly. Teams that in a previous format might have played safely in their final group game, knowing they were already through, might find themselves in very different situations. The potential for calculated, strategic approaches to the third-place finisher's qualification pathway introduces layers of tactical thinking that we've never had to analyze at a World Cup before. And then there's the simple question that nobody can definitively answer. Who is actually going to lift that trophy? Because the honest truth is that there is no overwhelming favorite. Argentina, Brazil, France, Spain, England, Germany, Portugal, all of them have genuine pathways to that final. All of them have players capable of producing moments that define tournaments. All of them have vulnerabilities that a smart, well-organized opponent can exploit. This might be the most genuinely open World Cup in years, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes the next month of football so intoxicating. We are now 3 days away from the opening matches, and the atmosphere around football right now is electric in a way that only a World Cup can generate. The club season is done, the qualifying drama is finished, the squads are named, the preparations are nearly complete. There is nothing left to do except play the games, and in 3 days, that's exactly what starts happening. Billions of people around the world are going to be watching, arguing, celebrating, heartbroken, overjoyed, pulling on scarves and jerseys and sitting in stadiums and living rooms and public squares. The sport that connects more human beings than any other is about to deliver its ultimate spectacle, and we are 3 days away from it beginning. The opening matches are going to set the tone for everything that follows. Nothing in club football, nothing in any other sport quite matches the particular electricity of a World Cup opening day. The first goal scored in this tournament will explode across social media in milliseconds, reaching every corner of the planet simultaneously. The first upset, the first breakthrough performance from an unexpected team or player, the first defining moment of the 2026 World Cup. These are all waiting to happen in the next 72 hours. This is the tournament where careers are cemented, where legends are born, where nations unite and sometimes break apart in the same afternoon, where moments happen that people remember for the rest of their lives. Football at its absolute most magnificent, most heartbreaking, most breathtaking. And here's what I want from you right now. Scroll down to that comment section and tell me who you think is going to win the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Is it Argentina defending their title? Is this finally England's year? Does Brazil end their 24-year wait? Does France dominate from start to finish? I want to see every prediction, every argument, every bold call. Drop it below and let's get the debate going, because in 3 days we start finding out who was right. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because we are going to be here every single day of this World Cup with analysis, reaction, breakdown, and coverage of every major moment from start to finish. You do not want to miss a single update. We'll see you in 3 days when the greatest show in football officially begins. Let's go.